we always say that we want to have fair data products. So if you think about the letters FAIR, then they stand for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And these are the highest standards that a data product has to fulfill in order to be called data product.
Hello and welcome to the Data Culture Podcast. I'm Carsten Bange, founder and CEO of Bark, and my guest today is Fiona Cambeis, and she's a senior key expert data management at Siemens and responsible for all data products and data sharing on top of the Siemens Data and AI Cloud. We hear her story about this fascinating journey Siemens is on. For more than 2 years now, they're building a central data warehouse that's the technical platform for data sharing with data products. But they are not building these data products centrally, but in 17 domains, there are data product teams that then enable others to build self-service data products that are shared then across the organization. I think it's a fascinating example how a good data culture can be established, where data sharing is a natural way to interact with data and to enable an organization to become data-driven based on this available data. We hear all about the journey, how they built it, how they organized it, and the future plans. I think it's a fascinating episode. Enjoy it. Hi, Fiona.
Hi, Carsten.
Great to have you in the Data Culture Podcast. Fiona, today I want to talk about data products at Siemens. And I already heard you speak about that. And I think it's a super interesting journey. Maybe you could give us first a little bit of background, a little bit of context. So how did this topic came up at Siemens? Why was it introduced? Just to get a little bit of background information.
Sure, of course. So Siemens has set itself a goal to become a data-driven company. I think it's a thing that a lot of big companies in the industry are doing nowadays. And the idea is Siemens is really big. I think this is something that I have to say in the beginning. It drives all of our processes, our size, and the amount of data that we have. And there is this sentence that has been said a lot of times, but I'm going to repeat it, which is, if Siemens knew what Siemens knows. And I think this is something that our CEO also said in the beginning when this was announced that we want to be a data-driven company, that the amount of data that we have is huge and we could drive so much more insights, analytics, informed decisions if we knew which data we have, where it is, and how to find it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is the big motivation. And there are probably two potentials that this allows us to gain value from. First of all, if we store data only once and also curate and analyze it only once, of course, it saves a lot of money for compute storage, but of course also time from people that need to curate the data. And second of all, the analysis that we can do if we know which data we have, because we can take a lot more informed decisions if we have all of our data available. And then there is, of course, maybe I'll just quickly say, but we don't have to go into detail. There is also, of course, AI. If you have the data then available, and you can put a whole different kind of models on top. And these models will operate much more efficiently if they have all the data available.
Yeah, of course. I mean, AI is a driver everywhere, I would say. But storing data only once as a goal sounds like you have a central data platform, or at least you try to achieve one.
Yes, exactly. So after we had this goal of being a data-driven company and implementing the share on less principle, so to share as much data as possible unless there are any security or other reasons against it, we wanted to localize all of this data in one central data warehouse, at least for structured and maybe semi-structured data. And this was a migration that took us at least 2 years, where really a huge amount of people were busy getting a lot of data that we also had in our ERP systems, but for all other kinds of data sources into one central data warehouse and then sharing it there. And of course, also putting then front-end reportings and other tools connecting to it to then analyze the data and share it.
That's super interesting. So, do you think you have all data centrally? Because some companies doubt whether they will ever achieve that.
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. So I think in general, what we've built we've come quite far, but like I said this before, Siemens is huge. So there is this central hub that I think is working quite well nowadays with the data. It's pretty centralized. Data sharing is working well. But to really get everyone on board in the regional companies and all of the business units, it's still going to be a long way. But still, I think the data already now has never been so centralized and so curated and so documented as it is now.
Where did you start? I mean, you say it's a long journey. I would completely understand that. Did you categorize data, the most important ones, or the easiest accessible? How did you start that journey?
I think one huge thing that we did was the replication of our ERP systems into our central data warehouse. And then the other part was a lot of enablement. So we have a domain-driven setup. This means that in the beginning, our team went into the company and together with the top management decided these are the domains that we need to have. We're still creating new ones if we need them. And the important part here is that we have a domain manager that's responsible, or that's pretty high up in the company, and that's responsible to really bring this concept of data sharing, of data-driven company, of share and less into their domain. And then there's a domain manager that helps the domain owner to realize this and really then realize this data sharing concept in the domain and therefore also in the organization.
Interesting. How many domains do you have?
We currently have 17. There are 2 new ones being discussed, so this is quite flexible. It's still evolving.
Yeah, I think that's a normal number. I hear a lot between 15 and 20. I think that's where most organizations end up with. And so you said there's someone responsible in the domain for data sharing. Could you share some light on that one? So was it easy to find these people, and are they really willing to share?
Depends. I think in the beginning we started with those domains that really saw the value and where we could achieve quick wins and it was easy to implement the concept. And then afterwards, of course, there are some domains where it's harder, where maybe people are not so convinced by the value that we're gaining from the extra effort that they have to do. And here it might need a bigger push, but I think we in Siemens are quite lucky to implement this in our organization because the top management really is behind this idea of data-driven, of share and less, of making data findable, accessible, reusable, all of that. And so it's both. We went into the companies to enable the people and to make them understand why this adds value, but also we had the push from the management that connected these goals to the people's strategic goals. So they really started implementing this in their domains.
Yeah, and you call the principle share unless. That's interesting. I think it's pretty similar to not the need to know, but the right to know principle. Yeah.
Exactly. So we used to have need to know, and then we turned it into share unless, because that's the whole mindset change behind it, right? And I think that's also where some domains still need some more support, because maybe they manage very sensitive data that really not everyone should get access to. And it's understandable that they are more careful, and they've been used to working in a need to know environment for years. So it's hard to really make them see the value to change to share and less now. But maybe one thing that I can also say here is that share and less doesn't mean we share data with everyone, right? It's unless there's a reason against it, and if there's a reason against it, of course, data shouldn't be shared. This remains true.
Yeah. Let's talk some numbers. How many people are or have access to data in Siemens or to your data platform, the central data warehouse, roughly, just to get an idea?
Well, that's a very broad question. I think if you say how many people have access to data, but we could say access to data products maybe, because I think data is spread across the whole organization, right? And there's all kinds of data. So probably everyone is in some extent works with data. But if we speak about our central Siemens data and AI cloud, which is basically our central place for data that we've created, then we have a project set up if we share data. And inside of these projects, we have users. And currently, if you sum it up, we have maybe more than 7,000 users working with these data products. It might sound a lot, but then if you think about the number of Siemens, it's definitely not enough. So we still have way to go. But of course, it's grown already quite a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that's already quite impressive. And how many data products did you build?
Currently, we have around 250. And also that maybe it sounds like a big number. But here, I think I also want to say that when we build data products, it's really not about the quantity, but about the quality. Because creating a data product creates effort, it needs time, needs development, and it needs to have a use case, or at least it needs to add value. So it's not about creating as many data products as possible just so that we have a high number to show our management. It's about sharing data that actually adds value, that people want to use, and that's well documented, that has good metadata, so that people really can use it in a valuable way.
Yeah, and who decides that? Who decides what to share?
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have a self-service ecosystem. I heard the podcast that was also about data products in July, and I think maybe some companies that are smaller than Siemens, they have a team that supports the company in creating data products. But for us, that's not feasible because you would have to be a huge team if you wanted to support all of Siemens to create data products, right? So for us, it works in a self-service way, but that also means that everything has to be guided and predefined in processes. There have to be clear rules and responsibilities, who does what, who's responsible for what. So yeah, I can take you through the workflow a bit of creating and sharing a data product if you want.
Yeah, let's do that. But first, let me understand that. So the products are being built in the domains,
Yes,
and you, as a central team, set up the rules and guidelines. Is that the correct understanding?
that's true. That's correct.
And
Yes.
you also provide the technical platform. Is there like a central technical platform where all data products are being built on?
Yes. And there's also a central place where all the data product related metadata lives, which is really great because we always know which data products exist, on which platform, who's consuming it, who approved it, all of that, for which use case. So that's always available, and it makes data sharing and also control of data sharing a lot easier, I think.
Yeah, okay, got it. Now how's the workflow?
So in the beginning, you have an idea, right? So you want to create a data product or you need data. Then you would go to our data governance platform. It's our catalog. It's like you can imagine if you want to go to a supermarket and you want to see what's on, what do they have for shopping, then you would go to the catalog and see which products they have. And this is exactly the same what we have. So you would see you would take a look which data products are currently available, and then you might find the data that you want to consume. If that's so, it's easy because you can directly go consume the data product, or at least request access. Once it's approved, then you get access and you consume the data. If the data product doesn't exist yet, then you would first have to propose it. This means that you create your idea, you describe which use case you might need it for, and you would already assign it to one domain. And here already we have the first approval where the domain then decides if this fits in the strategic direction that the domain wants to follow. And if it does, then it's fine. Then you can go on and create your data product. But of course, here's one more step that's really important. You have to find a team. We have a clear data product team with several roles so that we always know who's responsible for this data product. And once you found the people that are responsible for it and you get access to the data and everything, then you can do your development and then you can create your data product. And then the second approval happens, and I think it's also really important because we have a technical data quality gate. Because, like I said before, you don't want to share as many data products as possible. We want to have high quality, and there is a quality gate that they need to pass. Every data product needs to pass to make sure that the metadata is good, that the data quality is high, and all of that. And also, if you then afterwards update your data product, you also always need to again pass the quality gate in order for the data product to become publicly available.
And it's you that is handing is the gatekeeper on that?
No, that would be impossible because there are so many requests. So every domain has their own data architect, and there's usually more than one. So yeah, and they've been trained to know which guidelines they have to data products have to fulfill, so that they know what they need to approve.
Okay, so just to be clear, you have 17 domains. That means you have 17 teams that build data products, but also have the architects and the approval in the domains.
It's actually not the domain team building the data products. Anyone can build a data product. So
Okay.
even the 17 teams would not be enough. There are maybe 200 data product teams inside Siemens nowadays, and I think there will be many more.
Okay.
So it's really self-service. If you think that you have data that's worth sharing and you have someone that wants to use it, you create a data product. And then there is a team that enables those data product teams to do what they do. We have a bespoke team, so we have this model of a hub and several spokes across the company, and a bespoke team that helps the data product teams to actually build the data products, because of course they have questions, but in the end it's self-service. But what you said is true. Just one comment regarding the domains. We have 17 domains, and the team inside of a domain consists of several roles, but the most important ones for data products are the domain owner, the manager, and the architects.
Mm-hmm. Do you also have a data product owner?
Yes, that's true. So the data product itself then has a team, and that consists of a data product owner and a data product deputy. They can't be the same person because, if someone's on holiday or whatever. And then there can be a data product manager. It doesn't have to be. And because sometimes it's the case that there is one technically responsible person that would be the data product manager. That's not the data product owner, because the data product owner is more responsible from a business side.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Mm-hmm.
You can also appoint a data product manager that's more technically responsible. And then there's also the thing that there are people that actually approve access to the data product. So the people that own the data or are responsible for it. And this, again, is not necessarily the data product owner, because imagine that you have a big data set and it's partly owned by different people because it has data for different countries, for example. Then it wouldn't be possible that someone from Germany, for example, approves the whole data set. You have to then split it up into different countries, and there can be one person per country, or even on a lower level, to approve access to the data.
Okay, interesting. Just a side note, how do you define a data product? There's a pretty broad ideas what it could be, from just raw data to maybe even ML models, dashboards, reports. What's a data product in your definition?
For us, it's not so much about we call it data objects that we put into a data product. It's more characteristics that those data objects need to fulfill in order for them to be called data product. So it's not about the output parts of a data product. If you consume structured data on Snowflake, for example, or if you consume unstructured data on a data lake, it can be anything, all of that, as long as these data objects are well documented with metadata and have high data quality. This is what I said before regarding this quality gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we always say that we want to have fair data products. So if you think about the letters FAIR, then they stand for findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable.
Mm-hmm.
And these are the highest standards that a data product has to fulfill in order to be called data product. And the reason behind that is that we want to make our data products reusable, right? If someone consumes this data product, it should add business value to them, and they should be able to take informed decisions based on that. I said before that we have a domain-driven setup, right? So every data product has to be assigned to at least one domain, has to have a data contract, and in the future, probably also data sharing agreement. And then I said before that we want to have share and less, but in a secure way. So we really have an end-to-end automated approval and access management workflow. This means from the creation, as soon as it's publicly available, if someone goes into the marketplace, requests access, there's always someone defined that requests this access. Automatically an approval will be sent. This will be approved. It's going to be stored, who gave this approval, and then access will automatically be given.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and having this audit-proof workflow and for approval and access management really allows us, what I said before, to know who approved the data request at which point in time, for which use case, and for which project. And the last characteristic is that every data product needs to have a data product team.
Mm-hmm. So a team of people that builds and maintains it?
Yeah.
How do you look after that data products is not just a one-off? So someone needs data, okay, they create something, and then they do whatever they want to do with it, but they never need it again. Is that happening?
I think we're still in the phase where we allow people to create as many data products as they want, because we just want to see what the company has to offer. And we know that probably some data products are not consumed as much as they would need to really make sense. So we expect that in the future this might change, that some of the data products might go away again. But
Mhm.
for now it's fine because, like I said, we just want to make it visible which data we have and which we could reuse.
Yeah, I mean, that's great. And um, where do you make it visible? I mean, typically there's something like a marketplace. You said you have a data governance hub or place. How does that work?
Like I said, so the data governance platform is our catalog where you really go if you want to find something. And then we also have a marketplace, but they're closely related. So it's two different tools, but we always have a link pointing from one to the other. So if you find a data product in the catalog in the data governance platform, you can click the link and you're being directly taken to the marketplace. Or if you enter in the marketplace, you find something that you want, you could also then, or you might want, but you're not sure, then you could also take the link to go to the data governance platform and then see more metadata where it's more described in more detail which data products are part of the which data objects are part of the data product, for example.
Okay, sounds a bit complicated. Why do you have two platforms?
Yeah, that's true. I think that's probably due to the fact that Siemens again is big and complex, and often we can't use tools out of the box. So we often have to build something more custom made. And for example, this part about where I said before that we have different approvers for different countries, which is called row level security, so that I get access not to the full table, for example, but for only parts of it. And this for Siemens is complex because we have hierarchies that reflect our business structure, and you don't find this anywhere out of the box. So we need to build our tools ourselves for some use cases, but for the data governance platform, for example, we have something that already exists that we bought, and then the marketplace we built ourselves, and that's why it's a bit like puzzle pieces that we put together to get our whole ecosystem.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Let me ask you a maybe a more critical question. Self-service is sometimes a double-edged sword, yeah? Because some people might say, "Hey, I need data, but I don't have the time or the skill to now build my own data product. It would be a great service if someone would build it for me." Do you have this situation? Is that something you encounter?
For sure. That's what I said before, that some domains from the beginning, they really saw the values and others don't see it that much because
Mhm.
they say exactly that. Why would I now build a data product if I already have the data? What's in it for me? These two things that you can do, you can try to enable the people and make them understand why it adds value. And then if it doesn't work, you again have the strategic direction of the company to maybe give another push to then really start building and sharing data. So I think it's not like we can force people to share data, of course, but it's you need a reason to say if you have data that's available, why you would not be willing to share it.
Yeah, yeah. But let's imagine someone wants to share and needs
Mhm.
data for themselves, but simply has not the time, the skills, the resources, not enough people to build a data product team. Is there still a way to get a data product, or is that just not possible?
No, it's possible. So this bespoke initiative that I talked about before, where the hub helps the spokes to build data products, that we have resources available that can help the data product teams create the data products if they have access to the data. I mean, so it's two things, right? Either you have a need for data, but
Mhm.
you're not responsible for the data, it's not your data, then you would have to go to the domain and make your request known, and then they could help you find data and someone that builds it for you. Or you are the owner of the data, you're responsible for it, and you would like to share it, but you don't know how.
Mhm.
You could use central teams that could help you bring this to life. Of course, you have to pay because then they might not work in your project, right? They come from somewhere else out of the company. But there we also have this feature to monetize data products in order to get back or to offset the costs that you had in order to bring the data product to life, to make it productive, so that the consumers afterwards pay for the cost that you had in people or licenses or compute costs, stuff like that, in order to create the data product.
I mean, payment is a great topic. We see this as one of the biggest problems right now that people or companies run into when they start to embark on this journey towards data products, because often they say, hey, the effort to build it is separated from the actual usage where the benefits are being collected. And there's now some discussion going on, how can I maybe transfer some of the value that people can offset the cost they have to build data products? How do you solve this problem?
So we have a monthly process in place. You can assign a price to a data product, and then we have a charging mechanism in place. Like I said before, we share between projects. So every project usually has some kind of cost element where we can charge money from and to. And then every month the consumers pay for the data product usage, but not for all data products. I would say the majority of the data products that we nowadays have is free. But like you said, for example, some data products share external data that has to be bought from companies outside of Siemens for a lot of money. And it's only fair that they want to pass this cost on to their consumers. And these data products, then, for example, cost money. But what's really important is that we don't monetize the data itself. So it's not possible that if you now have data and you think, oh, this data is relevant to so many people, I'm going to set a super high price and I'm going to earn a lot of money. This is not what we want to achieve, because it would work exactly against what Siemens as a company has set as a goal, namely to share as much data as possible, right? And to reuse data as much as possible, because if it was really expensive, then people couldn't afford it and they would share less.
Yeah, interesting. But if you say most data products are free, then it sounds like you don't really have this problem. So people take the effort and share the data, but it's fine for them.
Yes, that's true. Also, well, so sometimes also it's the case that a project already pays for the curation of the data. So the cost is already covered and then they can share it for free.
Mhm.
But it also depends a bit on who builds this data product. If it's a central department that already is funded by the company, then already the data product can also be offered for free. So there are different mechanisms, but yes, I think for the majority of the data products so far, it's working quite well to share it without an extra cost. But you might not see in the data products, but then usually there is probably some funding underneath that's happening, not through data product sharing.
Okay. But I mean, overall, it sounds like a very good data culture. Yeah? So if people are willing to share, and maybe even if they have the cost, they still provide it to the rest of the company. I think that sounds really great.
Yeah, I also think so, and I think in that regard we've come quite far. We have a lot of people that support the idea and that are convinced that it's the correct way to go.
Yeah. So you mentioned, I would like to know a little bit more how to get there. You mentioned education. Yeah. So you have to educate people. You also mentioned top-down support, so leadership and really clear goals and a link to the business strategy. Is there anything else that comes to mind where you say, hey, this really worked well in supporting a good data culture, a sharing culture?
Yeah, so I mean, you partly mentioned it, but really to show the importance of what we're doing and the value that we're adding,
Mhm.
and how it's also helping the company to drive more and to thrive more, to develop more. And then the other thing that I wanted to say is that you what I think helps is to keep it simple, to keep the processes lean and not to make it extremely complex, so
Mhm.
that people have fun even when they're building data products, when they're working with our tools and our processes, and that the burden is not too big.
Yeah.
Because people have always been sharing data, right? You If it's an Excel that you send via email to a colleague, that's also data sharing.
Mhm.
And now you need to enable people to stop doing that, put in an extra effort, and share it in a more professional way, in a more scalable way. But in order to achieve that, I think you can't make it too complex. So simple and a pragmatic approach is definitely important here. Even though there are also some difficulties when you then, for example, talk about cybersecurity, about legal and export controls, where data needs to be assured and assessed if it can be shared. And this comes with a lot of questionnaires, with a lot of work, with a lot of people asking if this is actually supposed to be done. And here again, it gets complex and it can then hinder people from actually sharing data. So we definitely have these challenges.
Okay. Okay. Which leads me to another question. You mentioned that you use data contracts, and here I would really like to know a little bit more what's actually in these contracts. And but you mentioned that you might or you think about using data sharing agreements. So that's really sparked my interest. So what's the difference, or maybe give us a bit of background on this whole contract and agreement thing?
Yeah, we used to have a data contract, so only a data contract, but then there is this open data contract standard, right? That's like a leading standard in the industry. And we wanted to move a bit more towards those known and accepted standards. And therefore, we thought that it makes sense to split up our data contract into a data contract that is more technical, that comes from the platform and is basically centralized for the whole platform. It doesn't vary so much per data product. And then we have a data sharing agreement that captures more like which which security level does the data have? How can I reshare it afterwards, for example, by combining it with other data sets and putting more analysis on top and then sharing it as a different data product? Can the data be monetized? Is it protected by low level security, like I said before? How will the stakeholders be informed if something changes, if there's a new version? All of that will be part of the data sharing agreement. And right now it's all in the data contract, but for us, I think it makes sense to tear it apart a bit.
Okay, interesting. Now, talking about the future, what else is on your list? What's on your roadmap?
I talked about AI in the beginning, so this is something that we're really focusing on a lot right now. So, of course, I said before that our data products already have good metadata, but I think here we need to invest some more so that really also bots and agents can work with this data and we can put AI models on top to then use this data for all kinds of analysis and predictions and insights. So that's something that's coming. So we need to improve the quality of our data products even more, I would say. And I think our data products will become even more independent of the output port, so of the platform that the data actually lives on. Also talking about stuff like Iceberg, for example, that allows to share at least structured data independent of the storage location, and you can consume it from everywhere. So that's also something that we are really looking into and following the developments that are happening in the industry quite closely, because I think it can also add a lot of value. And then what we really have to do, I think I said this also before, is that we need to expand the ecosystem and the concept that we have into the depths of Siemens. And yeah, that's going to be a challenge. But I think if we achieve that, then our solution and what we've built can really scale even more.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like a really well thought out solution, but it seems to be also working based on a good culture and a lot of prerequisites that you have built over the last years. So I'm really impressed, especially in a company of that size and scale, to make all this work.
Just one comment, maybe, because also a lot of people are working in that. So the department that the data team, so the data and AI team, has grown immensely, and also everywhere in the IT teams, everyone is now building data products and working with data sharing and AI. So the focus and the support that's being pushed into those topics is immense.
All right. How big is the team, the central data and AI team?
I think we're close to 300 internals,
Mhm.
but then a lot of externals are also on top working for us. So yeah, and this is only the hub. Every business unit or every domain has their own spoke.
Yeah.
Where again, also up to a few hundred people are working and pushing the data journey inside of the company.
Yeah, really impressive. Just to sum it up, maybe just what are your top tips, yeah, for companies or people that want to go on this journey to become more data driven using data products? What are your most important experiences you want to pass on?
I would say start with the quick wins. So start with the people, departments, or whatever that already understand why you're doing that and really want to embark on the journey with you. Because if you do that, then you create enablers in the whole company and they will help you push your ideas and your setup and the ecosystem that you're trying to create, because you can't do it alone. And yeah, this is really important also. I think that in the central data team, that's how I'm just going to call it, you don't understand the business, not necessarily, right? So you need people in the business that also support your ideas, that know how to talk to the people, how to understand their problems and their worries and how to deal with them and how to also get them on board. And then, yeah, I said this, but keep it simple and pragmatic. I think this is really important. Don't overthink it. And if you want to scale it, you have to go for self-service at some point, I think. And there you really have to enable a lot, so many trainings, so many documentations, to really bring the concept to the company, to allow people to build themselves. And maybe one last thing is that is not just top down, but also bottom up at the same time, right? It's to make the people understand why we're doing it so that they also want to do it and they see the value, and then also the motivation, the strategic motivation from the top.
Yeah, I think lots of valuable advice. Fiona, thanks so much. I wish you and the whole team all the best on this journey. And I'm pretty sure this wasn't the last time we heard from you. Good luck and bye bye.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.